Lancaster City Council meeting. I'm sorry we're late. Marvin,
Was here on time.
Okay, City Clerk.
Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Mann.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Is Henry Hearn? Bishop, you're here. Yes, Bishop Henry Hearns will be doing the invocation.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you so much for allowing me to come back and honor In God We Trust. And I'm thankful. I'd like to leave these words with you as we prepare our hearts to pray. In the book of Psalms, I don't think anybody fights the book of Psalms too much, but let me leave that with you. I think it's 127th, and it's in that very first verse says, "Except the Lord build a city, the people wait in vain." And then it goes on, the latter part of that same verse, it says, "Except the Lord keep the city, they that wait in vain." Psalms 91 says that those of us who are covered by him are covered by his feathers, and our city is safe. So when I pray, I believe it before I pray. So, and I hope you do too. So I'd like for you to join me as we pray. Oh God, we come to you tonight, thanking you as we look back to the beginning of this city, all the way back to 77. And we give you praise for it. And many of us have not necessarily been thankful. But on behalf of every man and woman who have come through this city, I give you thanks for them and their services. We thank you for this present sitting council, our mayor, who loves the city from his heart. And I thank you for every council member. I thank you for every staff member. I thank you for those who climb the poles out in the city to keep things moving. I thank you for the street sweepers who sweep our streets throughout the city, for every business. In fact, I thank you for everything, and I thank you for keeping us. Because if it were not for your hand, our city could not stand and be successful as it is. We thank you for it. We ask you to bless our mayor with the wisdom and the council with the wisdom as they make decisions tonight, even to make a decision to fill a vacant seat. Give them wisdom in how you would want that to be done. Now, Lord, we thank you again, and we bless your name, for it is in the precious, holy, and sweetest name I know, and his name is Jesus. Amen. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you. Ron, you want to do the pledge?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time I want to move the council agenda to the front. Let's do the entire agenda. Okay, you all good with that?
Yes.
Okay. It's it's a happy day and a sad day. It's a sad day because we're accepting the resignation of Sandra Johnson, who I thought did a wonderful job. She's going to be sorely missed. It's unfortunate that her business and family have taken her away from the city, because I think she was really a true asset to us. But it's a happy day at the same time because we're going to be appointing Angela Underwood Johnson. Johnson Underwood? Underwood what? Jacob. Now, you know how embarrassing that is.
All right.
Underwood Jacob. Okay. Got it. Sorry. Angela comes to us with, she has, I haven't known you all that long in the city. What, 2 years? But in that 2 years, she's made an enormous impact. She got on the criminal justice system and was immediately felt, her presence, and what she had to contribute and offer. Thank you, Marvin. Marvin wrote it down for me now, so I won't forget. I think what you're going to be able to bring us is the ability to attract more business to the city, because she's a banker. And obviously what businesses want is financing. And so she brings a new level to us that is going to be felt very quickly, I believe. She also, in what we saw in the criminal justice, is she's not afraid to ask questions. She's not afraid to give us her opinion. And she really doesn't care what the mayor thinks. And that it's a breath of fresh air in many respects. And so I'm looking forward to that. So, do we have any communications?
No communications.
Any speaker cards?
None.
That is a first. We are actually appointing a councilwoman to the council and not one speaker card. See what she's already brought is unanimity. Okay, is there a motion?
We're on motion on CA1 to accept the resignation of Councilmember Johnson and declare the vacancy. Then we can move to the appointment.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to accept Councilmember Sandra Johnson's resignation
I will second that.
Any discussion?
And declare the vacancy.
and declare vacancy.
Thank
Let's
you.
vote. It's 3-1, and it passes. Moving on to CA2, is there a motion?
I'll move that we accept or consider the nomination and appointment of Angela Underwood Jacobs to the City Council.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Let's vote. Okay, let's swear her in. What are you laughing at? Oh, you're happy.
Yes, we are.
Okay, where do you want us to do this at? Right here? Okay, let's come over here. That's where you want it?
Both of you may come up.
We're going to acknowledge him for the
You want your family to come up now or later?
Yes, now.
Come on up.
parking lot.
You want to introduce them?
Sure. This is my husband, Michael Jacobs Sr., my daughter, Trinity Jacobs, my son, Michael Jacobs Jr.
Oh, you get to call them Jacobs, huh? Does that mean you can be Angela Jacobs?
At home, I am.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I, Angela Underwood Jacobs, do solemnly swear.
I, Angela Underwood Jacobs, do solemnly swear.
You can't even say
I
it.
can't even say it.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
That I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely
That I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Can you sign here? Oh, I don't have a pin. Wait a minute, we got to have a real pin.
Is this the wrong pin?
Is it
Hey,
California
come
Bank
over
and Trust
here.
pin? That's
Come over here. I'm going to keep this pin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. You just tell me what to do. Good. Okay. This is great. Yeah, let's stand behind her. We'll do it that
Yes.
way. Yeah. Okay, we good? Great, okay. Wow, that was quick. Come on, stand over here. There you are. No, over here. Come over here. There's your sign.
More pictures here?
Okay. All right, good. Henry?
Yo, if you hadn't made any other good decisions this year, you just did.
Okay, let's take 10 minutes, and then we'll resume, all right? And we're going to have cake or whatever in the lobby next, over there. Over there? Over there. Okay, great. Thank you. Good.
Can we?
We got to get one with Betty up there too. I'm sorry.
One,
If we can have those who want to join us in the lobby over here for cake.
I need my things. Could you, my things right there.
We got to document this moment. Oh, sure.
Can I get that too, please?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I got fun with everybody but me. But if I have to get a selfie, that's what I'll have to get. But I don't know where she went. They probably took her to do some paperwork or whatever.
Muted. We're muted. Oh, we're back on.
Now can you hear me? We're good? Okay. Want to do them individually, or can I do them?
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for the inconvenience. We're going to ask that we postpone the appointments of
No,
those.
I don't want to.
You don't want to? Okay.
Do I do them individually or jointly?
Individually.
Okay. I'm nominating Howard Harris to the Criminal Justice Commission. Is he here? Good thing you're here, Howard. Okay, is there a...
I'll second that.
Okay, let's vote. So you're moving from the Planning Commission, or where are you at now? You're moving from one commission to criminal justice, right?
Yeah, I was at Neighborhood Revitalization Commission.
Okay, that's right, okay. Got it. Good, so now you're on criminal justice. Great. And Jeff Little, who's already here, is the new vice chair. Do I do the appointments of the vice chair?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be appointing Jeff Little as the vice chair of the Criminal Justice Commission. Okay. And I don't need a vote for that, right?
No.
No. He's already on.
Congratulations. And I'm nominating Sylvia Norris to the Lancaster Museum and Public Art Foundation Board of Directors. Is Sylvia here? Anybody else want the job? No. Is there a motion?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. And we have Councilmember Smith, who will be presenting on the California Downtown Association, International Downtown Association meeting.
Yeah, I went down to Santa Monica here for 2 days a few weeks ago, representing the city along with some staff and some members of the Boulevard Association for the California Downtown Association. And one of the seminars that I went to was public art. And I know that we've talked about the city of Lancaster and especially the Boulevard being a sort of a hub for the arts. And recently we've elevated ourselves in the arts to a level now that with a few other tweaks, we are eligible for a lot of money, not only from the county, but from other organizations for public art. And that is working with the schools, working with the museum, and not only expanding it from the Boulevard, but expanding it out into the community. And one of the things that was said and that we've been looking at is you need to have a public art policy. And once that's in place, not only for murals, but for public art, then that makes us eligible to get all these grants, including money from the county. And tonight, I have Josh Mann, and he'd like to say a few words about the public art policy.
It's not even on the agenda.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's an honor to be before you this evening. As Councilmember Smith alluded to, there's some real opportunities for us to help grow our local arts community into one that is recognized not only throughout Southern California, but throughout the nation. We've been working alongside the LA County Arts Commission, and they are very, very excited about what we're doing so far. And they're hoping that with some additional policy making, that will help guide us as we move forward, really give us a master plan for public art in the community. And that's something that the Lancaster Museum and Public Art Foundation is really, really supportive of. And with Councilmember Smith's help, hoping to see this council take on as a real opportunity to grow our arts community here in the Antelope Valley.
Thank you. As you asked me, Mr. Mayor, you said when we were talking about this before the meeting, well, why haven't we been able to get that money before? And we weren't at that threshold yet. And a lot of cities have to actually do what's called a cultural study to get to that level, but we've sort of skipped it, and we've been told that if we do a public art policy that we will be at that threshold without doing a cultural study. And I'd like...
Wait a minute, is that because they don't think we have any culture?
No. They believe every community has culture. It has its own unique culture. But the public art policy will include the culture of the whole community, and that'll make a lot of money available to us and also give us a lot of opportunities. The other thing that's a great opportunity is cities who have done this have generated economic development and business. Businesses come to cities that have culture, that have art. And Steve English and Scott Ehrlich were ones that understood this, and they wanted to establish their investment on the boulevard. That's why they built and put MOA where it's at, right across from Beck's, sort of like nicely planned. So that's the next threshold, that we need to do that, and that includes murals, it includes everything that policy would do. So I'd like us as a body to direct staff to start working on that. Andy's already been working on it some. She couldn't make it here tonight. She was going to speak, but she's stuck in L.A.
Have Andy put it together and then bring it to us, would you? Thank you. Okay, we have one more presentation, and Mark Wazigian will do it.
I'd like these folks to come up here, and then we'll tell a little bit about why they're here. So if we can have Jeff Campbell, Michelle Cantrell, Junior Carrera, Pastor Casanova, Lee DeRico, Ramon Gallo, Rhonda Perez, and Deputies Fisk and Jordan, please come up. Join the mayor and myself. Willingly came. As many of you hopefully had the opportunity to enjoy the air show a couple weeks ago, it was really great. Weather was great, event was great. The hardest thing in events is to do the things that everyone complains about, thinks they can do, and the hardest to do, traffic and parking, and enforcement at the venue and on the streets. This is the team that did that. Better than we could have imagined. The loadout was about 30 minutes. The entire grounds were cleared with minimal traffic going in. It's because these guys spent all this year meeting on a periodic basis to figure out how to do it, taking aerials and such. I could go on about, but the best I can give is, some of you know a gentleman named Roger Hemme, who has not actually ever been a fan of ours or the city's. He sent an email wanting to thank the staff and the Sheriff's Department. He said he's been to 200 air shows and events, and it was the best traffic and parking he had ever seen. These guys put a lot of effort in. Please give them a hand for making it a great experience. Want me to read the names? Okay. First, we have Jeff Campbell from our Parks Department. Michelle Cantrell, Development Services. Efren Carrera, Parks, Recreation, and Arts. Pastor Casanova, Development Services. Lee DeRico, Director of our Public Safety Department. Obviously, Lee has a cheering section.
Cost me a lot, sir.
Brian Whalen from Parks, Recreation, and Arts. Ramon Gallo, Park, Recreation, and Arts. Okay, hopefully this cheer will beat Lee's. Our Director of Park, Recreation, and Arts, Rhonda Perez. And let me say a moment about our deputies. Imagine having to deal with 107,000 people over 2 days trying to get somewhere, get back, and keep them safe. These guys do it wonderfully. Can't say enough about the job the Sheriff's Department did. Representing the Sheriff's Department is Deputy Justin Fisk. And Deputy Lance Jordan.
Joe?
Okay, back on. City Manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go on record. Although I was not present on the March 10th meeting, I did review and read the minutes. So my intention is to vote.
Okay, let's vote. One abstention, and it's approved. Your first vote is an abstention?
Her first vote was to put Howard Harris on that.
Oh, that's right. Your first vote was, okay. I stand corrected. Okay, consent calendar, anything to be removed?
Motion to, we need to pull CC2. And then I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as currently comprised, pulling CC2.
I will second that motion.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. CC2, Mr. Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Councilwoman. I have two questions or two comments tonight about the check register. The city, on two instances on the current check register, they're spending $58,638 and $41,000 for legal services. Excuse me, that's $20,000 for legal services. I've gotten up before the council before, and I'll say it again. It's no dispersion on Allison. She does a good job. It's us. We need to make our city attorney elected and part of our staff. I think the assistant city attorney is part of the city staff. I think the city attorney should be part of the staff, and the money that we expend to the law firm will be for us. I reviewed the minutes. I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I reviewed the minutes of the last meeting, and there was a lady who got up and talked about making the animal shelter no-kill. You remember I got up here before and mentioned that we ought to abolish the sale of animals in the city of Lancaster. And here we are spending another almost $36,000 to house animals at the animal shelter. If we would if we banned the sale of animals in the city, we wouldn't have this burden on the cost. And if anyone wanted the animal, they could go to the shelter and just about get any animal they wanted. And it would reduce the housing costs that we continually have to pay over there. So that's all I have to say on the check registers. Thank you.
Michael, you should see what that other city pays for attorneys.
Motion to approve CC2.
Second. Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, public hearing item number 1. There are 2 speaker cards, so, I'm sorry.
Elizabeth Brubaker will be giving the report.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Paris and City Council members. Lancaster 637 LP plans to finance or refinance the acquisition and rehabilitation of an existing 77-unit multifamily apartment housing complex at 2317 West Avenue J8 in the city of Lancaster in an amount not to exceed $12 million. Lancaster 637 LP is requesting that the city approve the issuance of housing revenue bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority in order to refinance the above-mentioned project. The housing revenue bonds will be tax-exempt private activity bonds. For purposes of the Internal Revenue Code, it is required that the elected body of the governmental entity having jurisdiction over the area where the project is being financed is located provide approval. In order for the city to approve CFMA's issuance of the housing revenue bonds, the city must conduct a TEFRA hearing to allow for public comment on the use of the tax-exempt bond financing pursuant to Section 147, parens F, unparens, of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. There is no financial impact. The city itself is not a party to the underlying financing.
Can you say that again?
There is no financial impact. The city itself is not a party to the underlying financing, is not issuing the housing revenue bonds, is not obligated to repay the housing revenue bonds, and is not pledging or otherwise committing any of the city's revenue or other assets to secure payment of the housing revenue bonds. The housing revenue bonds are payable solely from revenue received pursuant to the terms and provisions of certain financing agreements to be executed by the developer. Please adopt resolution number 15-14 as the city has a significant interest in the success of these projects to preserve and maintain properties within the city of Lancaster. Do you have any questions?
Have you done this before?
Oh, just a couple of times.
That was truly exquisite. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing at this time.
Let's open the public hearing. And Michael Reeves, you have 2 cards here. Oh, the other one's for PH.
Hey, Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we've talked about this before when these came up, and I've always made a comment about them. This public housing is going to be managed by the U.S. Multifamily Management Incorporated. Who are these people? Before we give someone this right to do this and issue tax-exempt bonds, who is U.S. Multifamily Management Incorporated? That should be established before we lend the city's good name to back this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution 15-14.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Moving on to PH2. We'll now open the public hearing on PH2. Ryan Ludicky.
Mayor Paris and members of the City Council, the item that's before you is the appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of a requested conditional use permit, number 1414, located at the southwest corner of Avenue K8 and 20th Street West, as shown on the site plan. The applicant for this project requested through the city's Development Services Department approval of a conditional use permit for the sale of alcohol as part of a proposed convenience market. City staff went through and reviewed the application, determined whether or not it complied with the requirements of the city's alcohol and other ordinances, conducted consultation with appropriate agencies such as the Sheriff's Department, ultimately recommended approval of the request to the Planning Commission in accordance with a number of proposed conditions. During the Planning Commission hearing on the matter, the applicant raised a question about whether or not the Planning Commission would consider approval of the request with a modification of condition number 9 that was proposed. That condition limits the sale of single containers of alcohol to a minimum ounce size of 40 ounces. This is typical of a condition that we have often applied to similar types of uses in similar circumstances. At the Planning Commission hearing, the Commission discussed this proposed request, discussed the proposed condition, ultimately took 2 votes on the matter. The first was a proposal to continue the matter and to send it back to staff for some additional review. That failed by a 3-3 vote. Following that vote, the Planning Commission voted or made a motion, had a motion on the floor to approve the request as recommended by staff. That also failed on a 3-3 vote, constituting a denial of the request. Following that action, the applicant appealed the matter to the City Council. The appeal form that the applicant submitted indicates a number of different issues, but the primary one being, number 1, that he is requesting a modification to condition number 9 so that he can sell certain types of products that in his testimony are only available easily in those container sizes, namely 22 ounces. He also feels, as indicated in the document that he submitted, that he felt the vote at the Planning Commission level was clouded to some extent by the Commission not completely understanding the motion that was in front of them. Obviously, you have at the dais the chairman of the Planning Commission who can address that particular issue. Staff is recommending that you deny the applicant's appeal and uphold the Planning Commission action on this particular request. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I'd like to hear from the chairman.
What would you like to hear?
What happened?
Well, as Mr. Liddicky pointed out, we did conduct a public hearing, a rather lengthy public hearing. We heard from the applicant and 2 of his representatives. The commission members, a number of the commission members asked a number of questions of the applicant and his representatives. And after, at the close of the public hearing and after further deliberation, a motion was offered to table. However, that motion was withdrawn and the motion was made and duly seconded to continue the matter. After clearly pointing out to the members what that vote would require, it was a 3-3 vote, which, as we know, is a failure of the action. Subsequent to that, the commission took up, as Mr. Liddicky pointed out, a motion to approve as staff had recommended. That motion failed as well on a 3-3 vote. As Mr. Liddicky pointed out, he felt the applicant has indicated by his appeal that the commission had a misunderstanding and clearly didn't understand what was before them. I must say that the commission clearly understood what was before them. Our commission, as you well know, are very experienced in these matters, and we hear a number of conditional use permits for the sale of alcoholic beverages. I don't know what was in the mind of every individual. The ones that spoke clearly understood what was before them, and the vote was a denial. And as Mr. Liddicky points out, we would recommend that you sustain that.
Thank you. What was the vote again for the denial? As a
3-3.
We had one member was recused himself because he had a property very near there.
Right, and so a tie vote basically automatically denies it because it doesn't approve it.
Right.
Any other questions? Mr. Luedeke, do we have the benefit of some type of study as to how many liquor stores the city of Lancaster should have in order to create a thriving community?
I do not have that information, no. I did take a look.
Before we approve another liquor store, could we get one?
Yes, we can take a look at that.
I mean, I want a comprehensive study as to do we have enough? Do we have too many? Where should they be? What should we allow? Rather than doing this as a hodgepodge of one at a time. And you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, I know we have to finish dealing with this first, but in case I forget by the end of the day, I would like that at your earliest convenience. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you also bring back to us a look at what it would take for a moratorium on anything that's close to being called a liquor store?
Well, before we do that, before we do a moratorium, I want the study to tell us whether or not we should have one.
Right.
So it's a two-step process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could speak, I know I'm going to digress here, but historically, as a member of the Planning Commission, when we had a substantial amount of growth in the city, historically, I know that this was tossed around, and I think your recommendation would probably be a prudent one for us to be able to make a logical decision about how to proceed moving forward, because I know that, as Brian, you could speak to this too, I know that catching you off guard, but going back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I know that this was a very sensitive subject, and specifically the item number 9, which speaks to singles or fortified beverages. I know that many a times, whether I was the chairman of the Planning Commission or a member of that Planning Commission, I know that historically this was a point of controversy. And I think by getting something updated, I think it would make it prudent and logical for us to be able to make good decisions.
Thank you. Just so we're clear, this particular location's a red zone, right? Crime zone? It's a red crime zone?
You should ask Mr. DeRico.
Mr. DeRico, is that correct?
It is currently just by that reporting district. It is currently in that area, but we have some substantial multifamily units near that area. One of them being one particular building that's probably outlined on that map that you see there.
Just so you folks know what we're talking about, we have zones, we color code them, and you don't want to be in a red zone. Yeah. Well, unless you carry a gun. Okay, thank you. Okay, Charlotte Ramus. Is that right? Ramus?
I believe she's shaking her head no right now.
No? Could you pass?
Can I actually speak on behalf of the character of my client?
I'm sorry, what?
Character of my client?
I can't hear you.
She wants to speak on the character.
Yeah, you can speak on anything you want. Did you want to do that now?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to speak briefly on my client's character. I want you to understand that he has been a resident since 1988 here in Lancaster. He is not somebody that is just moved into the Antelope Valley starting a business. He's been here for many years. He's established many companies. He's created jobs. He's given a lot of the people in the city of Antelope Valley and Lancaster a lot of jobs, a lot of revenue, and he just wants to have that opportunity to do what is permittable in the area, in the zone, and create more revenue and business within his community.
Yeah, I don't want there to be any confusion. Nobody's saying anything about the applicant.
Okay.
The only
But I
thing-
want you to understand that he's not someone that's just coming in trying to
Sure.
set up shop and going to move out in 3 to 5 years. This is a man that's been here since 1988. I do want to just state one obvious, and that is his CUP for what he was proposing was recommended. What happened was, it was very disconcerting and quite shocking, to say the least, that something that was recommended for approval on a CUP, because the question arose for a condition, the whole thing got denied. Now, in my thought process, I'm thinking, okay, we raised the question. If you don't ask, you don't know. And that was where he was going. If he didn't get approval for that condition number 9, so be it. Not a big deal. It's the fact that it went from approval, recommendations of planning for approval to meet all the conditions, all the requirements, then to be completely shut down from, I'm sorry, we can't approve your condition number 9, so let's approve the CUP, but you will not get the approval on condition number 9. That was something that we were anticipating, but it's like you say, if you don't ask, you don't know. So,
You know, unfortunately, the mayor of this city is a recovering alcoholic, and it's really hard to get a liquor license in this city if it gets to the council. That's just the way it is.
well, it's
Sorry.
interesting, the next CUP was approved right directly after his, and no one even showed up, and it was approved.
Like I said, you do not want a liquor store to get in front of this council. It's just not a good place to be. And, you know, it probably should have been worked out in the planning
He's a
commission.
convenience market, he's going to have a convenience market, and it was something that...
Is he willing to do it without liquor?
That's something that you would have to ask my client, but he was zoned for that, he was permitted to do that. You know, he wasn't asking to carry a liquor store. He was just asking for what was right, what was consistent across the board.
I can appreciate it. You just understand the reality of the situation.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Abe, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Neaton, okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, City Councils. My name is Abe Nejim, and I'm the engineer of record for this project. When we started this project, we did a lot of coordination with the city, and we tried to comply with their requirements. The owner, he accepted the conditions of closing one of the driveway at 20th Street. We're enhancing the site. We're providing handicap access, van access, which didn't have that. So we're enhancing the shape of the building as well. One of the things that I would like to, when I'm reading this, the report, that the issue came whether it's liquor store or whether it's convenience store. In my opinion, the city require us, or they say maximum of alcohol is 10%. We're providing less than 7% of alcohol. We're providing more than 13% of produce. So that classifies it as a market store and not a liquor store. The city allow us, we're providing, they say in one of their communication with us, they said provide 269 square feet of produce. We provided 372 square feet of produce. We are allowed to have over 300 of alcohol. We only provided 7% for alcohol. So it classified as a market, convenient market. And it's really consistent with the city requirements, consistent with the general plan, consistent with the planning department finding in the original CUB. I could really see, I admire what the city is doing in Lancaster Boulevard right here. And like Mr. Smith said, that's the hub of the cultural art and so on. I could really see 20th Street is one of the streets that become part of the culture of something, all the way from Avenue L all the way to Avenue I. That could be, a lot of these older homes, they could be rezoned, so you could have multi-usage. About 5 weeks ago, the planning department here, they had a meeting here, and they have one of the speaker, and the speaker indicated how city become bankrupt. One of the reasons they become, may I speak a little bit? Appreciate it. One of the reasons that city become bankrupt because of the fact that they go and spread the city horizontally and not vertically. And we have a lot of empty spaces right here. 20th Street is an excellent area where you could have multi-usage, where you could provide stores, apartments, all kind of businesses where people can walk and go back and forth, and they can walk and enjoy nice evening like what you guys have what you gentlemen have in Lancaster Boulevard. And the study, per the speaker, he said the city go bankrupt after 27 to 30 years because they don't have money to maintain their streets. This project will provide at least 10 jobs. So when I read the physical impact for the city right here, and they say none, I believe it has a physical impact of 10 people, 10 families there. They could be working locally right here. It has a physical impact on the society for the energy. If people have to drive a mile or 2 or 3 miles, whatever, while they could walk to a convenient store, that will save our country right here tons of money in shape of energy. When they when they talk about condition number 9, they say that could set a precedent for future applicant requesting similar consideration. My belief at this point, if you gentlemen here approve the planning department, planning commission's denial of this, then you're setting a precedent for future projects like this. So I hope you consider that, and I hope that you approve the conditional use permit. Maybe what Cheryl said, that you take condition number 9 out of it and we approve it. And I really appreciate you listening to me, and if there is any question, I will answer it.
Any questions? Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. They showed an aerial map on the board here of the proposed development. The map that's in the binder, which you probably got, is a little different. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. All around this development are nice homes. Some of them have swimming pools. Did anybody ask these people if they wanted a liquor store in their neighborhood? I don't think so. I live on West Avenue J9, right off of 10th Street West. There's a liquor store up by Avenue K on 10th Street West, and there's a liquor store on 10th Street West by Avenue J. I won't even walk on the same side of the street as those liquor stores. I've walked past the one at Avenue K, and once in a while there's a fight going on in the parking lot. When I walk down the sidewalk to the boulevard and the liquor store on 10th Street West and J, they have unscrupulous people outside. I don't think these people in this nice neighborhood want to have a liquor store and those unscrupulous people outside the liquor store. Now, if the gentleman wants to have a store where you can run down and get some bread and milk or sodas or something like it, hey, I'm for it. But I don't believe in this city, with all the problems we have, we need to invent more problems by having another liquor store. Thank you.
Wait a minute. He was calling me unscrupulous in the last election. Richard Gruenberg. Welcome.
Mayor Paris and city members, I hope you support the decision to deny alcohol sale. 3 reasons why. This is a residential area. I live in that area. They got Albertsons down the street. They got Arco down the street. If you want to buy liquor, go down there and buy it. This is a residential area, and I hope it stays that way. It doesn't become industrial or commercial. Reason two, school lanes were down to one lane. We had lights put in to take the traffic down to one lane for the kids, and kids got to come through that intersection. And I hope they don't have to see drunks or anybody else or increase traffic, and they have to fight themselves. So that was my second reason. The third reason is traffic lights. That traffic light, there's no left turns signals. We got to fight traffic that's oncoming in both ways. And if you got to turn left and go into that convenience store, it's going to be a hassle because you're trying to fight traffic that's moving very quickly through that light. And on top of that, you're going to have kids at that intersection. So, again, I hope you support this decision to deny alcohol sales. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we not have the applause? And the reason for that is because, you have divisions of views, and I just don't like people feeling bad. And applause tends to do that to the other side. So if we could not do that, I'd appreciate it, okay? Pablo Gutierrez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to second that denial of the liquor store. As Richard mentioned, this intersection here is somewhat dangerous. I mean, it's a 50-mile-an-hour zone, and there's at least an accident a month in this intersection, the way it is now. If we add more traffic to it, the element that this liquor store is going to attract, all in all, it's not a good thing for this neighborhood. This is probably not the nicest, but one of the nicest neighborhoods in Lancaster. I know you called it a red zone. I don't know how. I mean, yeah, there's some pockets in there that are pretty bad, but so.
Hey, you wanted me to do that, okay?
But anyways, if you guys can deny it, that would be great, because we all have families. We all walk through there. We take walks around the block, and then if this place goes up in there, it's nobody's going to want to walk through there. Thank you.
Thank you. April Mullen. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I second my neighbors. I would encourage you to support not allowing a convenience market with alcohol sales in that particular location. As the gentleman in the front here so eloquently stated, nobody came and canvassed the neighborhood and asked, do we want this? Is this something that we would support? Many of us who have spoken are in the neighborhood directly behind, this location. And so we see what would happen to our neighborhood. We don't want that. And, I would say to our potential business owners, we've lived in that neighborhood since it was a slab. So we understand the longevity and the importance of building jobs in our community, but I just really don't think that's the correct spot. And I would actually suggest, I know I mentioned this at the Planning Commission, I know it's not the right time, but I would suggest that if this parcel could be rezoned at some point, because it is a fully residential area at this point. And as was mentioned, there's a school down the street. So this really needs to be an area where we have something that's very wholesome for the community, a park, an educational establishment, a preschool, something like that would bring real value to that part of the town. In terms of markets and what have you, as was already mentioned, we have Albertsons right up the street. full-service market. You can get anything you want there. Ralph's, just down at the other end of the street, 20th and L, closed. If we can't support a market a mile away from Albertsons, I really don't think that we could successfully support a small market. Personally, I just really do not think that we have the demographics where that is a real need. And let me just see if there's any other points that I needed to mention here for you. And I would suggest, if we do want to bring a market, perhaps one of the many vacant storefronts in the development at 20th and L would be a better choice. I would still urge the City Council to keep Ordinance 9 in place because we just don't need that kind of environment anywhere in Lancaster. But I think if a market were to be put in, there are much better locations than the one right by our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it Deborah Macon? How do I pronounce that? How do I pronounce that?
Machen.
Machen, okay. Welcome.
Good evening. Nice to meet you all. First time I've been here, so a little nervous. I'm going to back up what my neighbors have said. We live in the neighborhood right directly behind where this gentleman's planning to open his store. We were never consulted when he came the first time to open the store. The thing I've noticed in the neighborhood since we received a letter this time, I went around, there's approximately 9 vacant shops down the street on Avenue L and 20th. There's 4 open shops on Avenue K and 20th. So I don't understand why we can't have him go there if he wants to open a shop. There's an elementary school 1/8 of a mile away, as we discussed. We just redid our streets, as Pablo had said, for the safety of our students. That concerns me. We have several liquor stores in the area. We have the AM/PM. If you go down L past 30th, there's 2 other liquor stores. There's a 7-Eleven. There's another liquor store across from the 7-Eleven. We have the Stater Brothers. We have the Bonds. We have the Albertsons, all that sell liquor. Right now, on every corner of where he's talking about is residential. I don't understand why that place is zoned for commercial. That's something to deal with in the future. But I would like you guys all to continue with your decision to not allow this permit at this site.
Thank you. Dan Mullen? I split you up so you don't compete, you know.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and lady and gentlemen of the council. And I will concur with my friends and my neighbors and my wife in that I really don't think this is the place for a business that puts such emphasis on alcohol. They intend to generate 30% of their revenue, their sales revenue from alcohol sales, as stated at the Planning Commission meeting. And they are asking for a removal of a conditional use, a limitation on the sale of alcohol. I just see, when I see that much emphasis placed on the sale of alcohol, to me that's a liquor store, and I really don't want that in my neighborhood. And, as has been stated, this area has grown up over the last 28 years, of which I've been a resident. Completely residential. The only non-residential facility in the area is Miller Elementary School, and I just don't think that's the appropriate place for this business. So I strongly urge you to uphold the denial of the permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the speaker cards. Any comments?
Do you want to close the public hearing?
Public hearing's now closed. Well, let's deal with the what's before us, and then we can have some comments, okay? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we uphold the Planning Commission's decision by denying the appeal for the conditional use permit 14-14.
I will second that motion.
Is the motion to adopt resolution 1515?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay. Planning Commission. I would strongly suggest that until we get the report from the city as to the viability of any more convenience stores that sell liquor, that we not approve any until that study's done.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, we placed an item on our agenda for discussion at our next meeting, which is next Monday, to take up that specific issue as it relates to the current alcohol beverage ordinance that was adopted about 6 years ago or thereabouts, and to have a complete discussion over a number of these issues. Staff is actually going to hold in abeyance any applications for convenience markets, convenience stores, or any alcohol beverage vendor, retail type vendor, until the commission has a full discussion and may make a recommendation to modify the current ordinance, the current alcohol beverage ordinance to this council. So
Okay.
we're prepared to do that.
I want to clarify that I actually want a complete demographic study looking at what other cities have done, what is the viability of changing our ordinances, and then so you have a report to deal with before you decide whether or not we should change it, whether or not we should have a moratorium. What I don't want to see any more of is a hodgepodge approval of liquor stores.
You get no disagreement from me on that.
Good. As I tell my kids, nothing good ever comes from drinking. Trust me, it's true. Okay, we clear? Anybody disagree? Anybody have any additional comments?
Can we, Brian, during your discussions, do you have the crime maps from the Criminal Justice Commission?
We do. We also always consult with both the Sheriff's Department and the Public Safety people in the city regarding any particular proposal.
Okay, so you're aware of any time that I've been on the Criminal Justice Commission or attended the meeting since the inception of the Criminal Justice Commission, and it shows very clearly that liquor stores are a part of the problem that we're having. I would echo the mayor's concern with the liquor stores. I would not so much echo his concern with alcohol. I don't mind them buying it at a grocery store or that kind of facility. It tends to not create as much crime, but that's my opinion.
So Marvin, you want to go to a meeting with me, or?
Do you need another one?
Okay, very good. That was good.
Yeah.
Moving on, new business item 1. City Clerk, any communications?
No communications.
We'll hear a report from Barbara Boswell.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Christ, council members, and commissioners. The item before you at this time is approval of our personal choice program for Lancaster Choice Energy. As you're aware, we're very excited to begin servicing customers with electricity in May. We currently have 2 options. We have a 35% renewable product, which is our default product. Customers can opt up to 100% renewable. But we also have customers that have solar on their houses, and this program, the Personal Choice Program, offers what we think is a better deal to them than they currently get from Southern California Edison. The program conditions delineates under how much we will pay for overproduction during those times when the system produces more electricity than is being used by that property. It allows that we will do an annual true-up at the end of that year period. If there is more production than what was consumed, we will pay 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Currently, Edison gives a refund of 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And if the refund is more than $100, we will automatically refund a check. So we feel this is a good program to offer to those customers who have their own facilities such as solar, and would recommend that you approve the program. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have one. Okay. If you have solar and you're at peak, peak period, and you're feeding your own needs, your own electrical needs, right? Am I correct in assuming that you're not paying peak rates at all when that happens? Or are you just getting a rebate for the use of the solar panels?
So there's the monthly true-up or reconciliation that happens with your system that looks at when was the power generated and when was it used. When we're looking at the amount of power you used during a particular period versus what you generated, we use a like-for-like pricing. So we would give you the credit for the production you have during peak time, peak hours, and used versus peak hours. At the end of the year, we just look simply at kilowatt hours. So on a month-to-month basis, we're using the same pricing. So what would be charged to a residential, what you would have paid had you been just a consumer, is what we use as a credit for your production.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
I'll move we approve NB1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's vote. NB2. City Clerk, any communications?
No communications.
No speaker cards.
You want to waive the staff report?
Yes.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Let's waive the staff report. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve NB2.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. We've already done the council agenda. Council reports. Councilman Mann.
Yes, I'm happy to say that this Thursday, Sanitation District Number 14 is going to meet. We've secured the refinancing of the bonds, and although I didn't quite get the decrease that I was looking for, I am proud to say for the first time that I think in the history of the city of Lancaster, we are going to reverse the tide on the taxes that show up on everybody's tax bill for the starting in the year 15-16. We were looking for a more aggressive reduction, but unfortunately, it was brought to my attention that we have some equipment, unbeknownst to me, that is close to 40-some years old. And so we called for a study, and so unfortunately we had to build into our model moving forward, potentially the cost to replace that equipment. But in the fall, there'll be approximately a reduction on a monthly basis of about, we're going to move from 496. Originally, it called for us moving to 519 this next year, and then the following year to 539, very similar to what's taking place down in the other district to the south. So they're going to experience close to a $100 increase over the next 4 years. So ours is going to drop next year by $20. My intention is to bring it back after the study, so sometime this next year, would be to bring it back, do a recalculation, and to determine if we can get a further reduction. Hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't have a substantial amount of equipment to replace. So very comfortable in saying we're going to go back the other direction. Not quite what I was looking for, but it's better than voting on Thursday with the original proposed increases.
Any questions?
No, and remember, we're already lower because we stopped the increase a number of years ago too. So,
yeah. So
it's put it together. It's quite a bit.
Yeah, I think over the next 4 years, currently, we were able to extrapolate. We feel that we can get a level secured expenditures over the next 4 years. But again, like I said, had I not been brought to our attention, I thought when the new plant was built, all the equipment was replaced, but obviously not. So look forward to a future report because we'll get a study done, determine whether or not, how much equipment has to be replaced. If we don't have to replace a substantial amount, then I'll move next year for us to take another reduction as opposed to stay on the level plan that is currently being proposed. So everybody will get a small decrease in December's new tax bills that will come out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get this straight. For the first time, we're going to get a tax reduction?
Yep. So I get to go on record to say, ever so slightly, we're going to get a tax reduction.
Well, I think you've done an excellent job since you took over there. I just want to point out to everybody that this is what happens when you have a council person that holds their feet to the fire, that maintains that they're spending too much money, and you've done an excellent job with that. Right. So congratulations.
Thank you, Marvin. And they're clear. Staff clearly understands, as I've reiterated numerous times, I was not appointed to the position to keep status quo. So I just wanted to, they gave me a tour, as the sanitation district would like to try to make me feel more comfortable. And I said, I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm not here to rubber stamp any kind of numbers that you hand me. I said, and I've had staff, we've met numerous times outside of our normal monthly meeting to pull all the numbers apart. Mark and Jason, I think, have been in just about every single meeting, as Barbara has, and they clearly understand that that they're on notice. So I wish I could give greater news so somebody could jump for joy and we got a 25 or a 30% reduction, but I'm sure going to be working on that as my next phase.
Michael Reeves is going to dance.
Oh, is he?
Hey, we could have a party on Lancaster Boulevard, a tax reduction party.
There we go.
I'm up for it.
All right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
You want to do him first before
Yeah,
you?
do him so I can answer his questions.
Mr. Reeves. We should have a Mr. Reeves hour.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, I gave the council members 2 exhibits, Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2. And this pertains to the Antelope Valley Transit Authority. Because the other day I was coming down 10th Street West, headed toward the boulevard, and I looked over at the bus stop, and all there is a sign and a pole that says, the bus stop's here. And there was an elderly gentleman sitting on a cardboard box waiting for the bus. And I thought, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I've noticed that bus stop for years, people hiding behind the pole, trying to protect themselves against the wind and the cold and the heat. For a city of 160,000 people, not to have a bench at that bus stop is deplorable. It's a blight on our city, and it's tragic for the people who ride the buses. I mean, I know that some of the people that ride the buses are not pillars of the community, but they need to have a bench to sit on. On Exhibit 1, it shows you where the bus stop is. Exhibit 2 shows you where there is an old bus bench by Antelope Valley Hospital at the corner of 15th Street West and Avenue J that has not been used because they moved the bus stop across the street, because when the bus picked up people at the old stop, it obstructed the right lane to turn over to the hospital. So they moved it across the street to Rite Aid. So for time immemorial, that covered bus bench has been there at J and 15th Street. Please, 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 move that old bus bench at Avenue J and 15th Street West over to 10th Street West, down from the Law Building, and put it there for those poor people will not have to suffer anymore. Please, please, please. Thank you.
You have another exhibit. Did you want to talk about that?
Is the council seating?
Yeah, that's,
You want to talk about it?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you want to talk about your council seating chart?
Yeah, I wanted, while I'm up here, so I don't have to bother you anymore. This is the last time. You notice Fran, yeah, you notice Fran sits out in the aisle. And we need to make some accommodations for the handicapped people. And, you know, I'm deaf. I can deal with it. I can turn up my hearing aid. But Fran has to wait in the aisle over there. I'm just wondering if we can knock out a few seats over here on the side, on this side, for she can get a view, and anybody else in a wheelchair can get a view of the whole council. And so it'd be more comfortable for them over there. And also, if there's ever a disaster, a fire, or earthquake, when everybody's running out of here, she won't get trampled. So,
yeah, but she might get left.
You know, I know there's some grant out there for Americans with Disability, and the city of Lancaster is superb in getting grants. There's a grant out there somewhere for the disabilities, and I hope that the city manager and the council will try to pursue getting grants so we can remove some seats over here, and the handicapped people will not have to stay in the aisle.
Fran, you can sit up here next to me if you want. You know you can sit wherever you want, right?
You're replacing Angela already?
I actually...
You were thinking of me.
You see how these power struggles start? Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Okay.
Let me give a report.
Fran, we okay? Do you want a different seating arrangement?
Can I speak on what you just said?
Sure, come on up.
We're still on CR2.
I know. Marvin has informed me that we're off agenda, but, you know, you also have a mayor with ADD. I mean, what can you do?
Thank you very much for listening to for my comment. And I kind of agree with Michael. It'd be a good idea to do this on that section over there, where he's sitting, basically. And
but that's where my staff sits.
well, sit with me. Yeah, Erica can sit with me.
Okay, we can take care of that. Can we take care of that?
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, done.
Okay,
Good idea.
thank
All right.
you.
Although my hunch is Fran will always be front and center no matter what.
Well, thank you very much.
You sure
I
you
was
want to go?
hoping-
You sure you want to go over there? We could put you there.
Well, that would be great.
Why don't we do that?
Taking Michael's seat?
Yeah,
They can write
absolutely.
I was before Angela was appointed.
Michael don't mind. All in favor?
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
it's done. All right. Vice Mayor Christ.
We're still moving a lot of bus stops around. We're doing different surveys at AVTA. They're taking a look at the rates for AVTA. We're looking to hire a new executive director. The hiring committee came up with an individual. We will go before the board of directors on next Tuesday and present that individual and see where it comes about. So good things happening at AVTA. A lot of awards, so look forward to a lot of changes. A lot of electric buses.
Who's the individual?
Ken. No. He's good with numbers.
You're not going to tell us?
No.
Let's vote. How many want to know? I want to know. You're outvoted.
No. I only see 3 hands.
All right. I guess we'll learn next week. So, Mr. Christ.
Yes, sir.
How come on Sunday morning, all these churches are having to spend millions and millions of dollars on buses, when during the week we have AVTA buses running around empty? Why can't those buses work on Sunday?
They can. It's just the funding the individuals and rerouting the routes. So
Would you work on that?
We've already taken. Ken was there when he gave a priority. We gave a priority to seniors. We gave a priority to the medical. We gave a priority to education. We gave a priority to the faith-based community. So those are our priorities for AVTA. And we will do it according to those priorities. So that is one of the priorities. We'd like to see that happen also.
Thank you. Okay. Is it my turn? Is this where I should do the water? I'm sorry, what? I don't know. Tell me. It's unclear. You guys left me off the...
You could do it under council reports.
Yeah,
under
CR3.
Which is now.
Right.
Okay, great. As everybody knows, the governor has cut our water usage, which means if we do nothing, they're just going to charge us a great deal of money for a little bit of water, right? Isn't that usually how they do it? What I would prefer to see happen is we become much more proactive in it, and that means the Planning Commission. You didn't think this was going to be an easy job, did you?
You know, I'm surprised. No, I'm not.
So I'd like you to consider, and, you know, spend all the time you need, but do it in the next week. I mean, seriously, as we need to move rapidly, we need to move decisively, and we need to do whatever we can do to meet our quota. I mean, we got to cut it 35%, isn't that what they've asked for? So I want you to consider a zoning ordinance to do away with lawns on all new construction, front lawns, back lawns, to make it zero escape. And I just want you to consider it, whether or not that's feasible, whether or not that's something people can live with. I want you to consider making it mandatory that the recycled water hook up to the recycled water in the city so that we're not wasting anything. You know what I mean by that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And most importantly, I want to consider revising our zoning ordinances and our building requirements so that every new house takes advantage of the gray water system like Nexus e-Water is able to provide. And that is what I would like at the next council meeting, whether or not we're in a position to now make that mandatory. Okay? Can we do that?
So we have a planning commission meeting this next Monday, and a week from, or 2 weeks from today, you have a city council meeting.
Yes.
So if we're proposing to consider modifications of ordinances, typically we have public hearings that have to be noticed, and 2 weeks is...
Can't we do away with those?
We can do an urgency ordinance if needed, and we do have backup for that in the form of the governor's proclamations and the new regs coming down. So we can do it as an urgency basis.
At least in regards to the water system. All right?
So we can have that. So we can have that draft by Monday.
Well,
I mean,
no,
since you're suggesting it.
If I may, I think what the mayor said of those three, we'd like to at least at a minimum deal with whether we can require the e-water system by next council meeting. We'll work with Brian to make sure you have all the details that you need before the meeting.
Okay.
And Carlisle Workman has been working very extensively with that company. I think will be able to provide a lot of value.
Very good. Thank you.
The other two items are going to take more time to be able to make a considered opinion on it. Okay? Thank you. Good.
Just for clarification, we are 8 years ahead of everyone else, correct, on our reclaimed water?
We are ahead of most communities on that. We are still working, unfortunately, as part of my report, with the county on getting access to more reclaimed water, and we're working with other entities to get additional funds to allow people to hook up to recycled water.
Let's remember the rule. We do not measure ourselves against other cities. We measure ourselves against ourselves. Are we better today than yesterday? And as long as we continue doing that, greatness is in our grasp, if we can get some water. We do need water. Good. There was one other thing we wanted to do. All right. Moving on. City Clerk, speaker cards.
You have all the speaker cards. This is the time to address the City Council and agency and authority on non-agendized matters. Please complete a speaker card, which can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the city manager. Thank you.
Maria Elena. Oh, great. I've been calling you Maria Elena so long.
Mr. Mayor, council members, commissioners, and city staff. Last meeting, I talked about Shop Lancaster and how the Lemon Leaf has proceeded to shop locally for almost all of our goods, for the restaurant and for some things we don't. But since we've been shopping locally, we've run into a lot of panhandlers. And I know that this is an issue locally, and it's an issue all down south, all in California. So recently I was in Beverly Hills, and they have this positive change, not spare change. And since a lot of us are working with Grace Resources, we're working with One Family, One Restaurant, working with feeding different people in the community, the restaurants are working on taking some pressure off of the local food banks and so forth. This issue of panhandling has been coming. We're working towards feeding people instead of people giving change to people, and it's becoming a nuisance going around town shopping. So I thought I would bring it up. I know that I looked into different ordinances in different cities, becomes a civil issue, but I know that loitering is a possibility to prevent it, and people are panhandling and not paying taxes on the panhandling, so those are just two issues I brought up with it.
Really?
No, really. I mean, it is an issue. If you go to Albertsons, we'll talk about the areas. Albertsons, there's always a panhandler outside there. PetSmart, Walmart, in the shopping center parking lots, in Costco. It is being spoken all the time in the meetings, at the Lemon Leaf, meetings with people in town. My target market at the Lemon Leaf is 40 to 70-year-old ladies. So I'm concerned. I'm hearing this all the time, and I'm seeing it since we are shopping. I'm not concerned about our next door neighbor city, but I am concerned about Lancaster, and since we're so proactive, I know we are putting a lot of processes in place, so this is one that I thought we could talk about. And I brought something that, it's just an education issue, I think, locally. I can only do so much, but the city of Beverly Hills really has a good program. And it's becoming not just a nuisance, but it is, I don't think people understand how to handle the situation. So then with water issues, I think it's called education too. We're going to have to get out there and talk to the kids about education, about conserving water. So they're just two little issues I thought I'd bring up since you're moving forward in all these areas.
I just find it ironic that Beverly Hills is the one that doesn't,
Well, and that's the other thing is this One Family, One Restaurant, which I talked to Vice Mayor Christ about. We're working with the restaurants and Grace Resources to help feed people. And we have another meeting this Thursday at Giannini's. So if anybody would like to come and join us. But it all is together. What time? 3:30 at Giannini's. I have some information on it and cards. So, and I know that your relative, who's the mayor of Ventura, is on board with this program in Ventura. They have about 30 restaurants signed up. So, Mr. Chris, hopefully you can join us again.
Vice Mayor Chris, did you have some comments?
Just the panhandling one. Let me address those real quick. What we're trying to do is move our homeless population from the city to 60th and I. Once we get them the facilities, then the faith-based community will be on board with us as far as moving them out there, and then we can start cracking down on the individual panhandlers that are actually making a very good living.
Excellent.
Doing it.
And that's what I talk with Steve Baker a lot. We were talking about this because with One Family, One Restaurant, we're working with helping feed the homeless and so forth, but the panhandling is a whole separate issue. And he knows who's who in town and who's out there. And, yeah, it's very uncomfortable to shop. But Lemon Leaf is shopping almost 100% locally. So I see this. I'm out there. I see people. And thank you for the article that you wrote about Lemon Leaf shopping locally, because we're trying to get more restaurants to see that we can keep our tax dollars here and shop locally. But that issue, I think it all comes together. That's why I wanted to mention One Family, One Restaurant and this whole thing.
Thank you. You're doing a very good job.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
I will.
Norman Kolish.
I'm a little slow, but I'll make it.
You know, if Michael would give you his chair, you wouldn't have to struggle down that hill.
I need more than a chair. They say again, it's the second time, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I have some pictures for the council if somebody will help me take these out. And thank you. I think much to the chagrin of the hospital district, I've been working with them. They're not too happy about some of it, but some of it they're overthrilled with. And what I'm about to show you is part of what they're overthrilled with. There is a situation that has occurred that I have a family full of people that goes to the hospital quite a bit, and we have a condition that's very, very dangerous that seems to be overlooked. The hospital has done a lot of work with parking lots, this, that, and the other, and they have a brand new entrance to the emergency room on Avenue J. Problem being is that the old emergency room entrance, which is in the small circle, is now a service entrance, and the long oblong circle is a gate that is closed, blocking off the admittance to the emergency room. So the only way basically to get into the emergency room is go around 15th Street West and wend your way through parking lots, obstructions in buildings, and finally get there, other than the fact that they have a brand new entrance to the emergency room. The big circle on the picture, the hospital, they don't have a sign there, which I'll see that gets done. But in the meantime, if you're going west on Avenue J with somebody sick in the car, you can't get there through the west side. You have to go up another block higher, make an illegal U-turn, and turn into the now entrance to the emergency room. My plea is that through the other circle, the median in the center, please, it has to be removed to gain entrance into the emergency room so we can save lives. Is it clear enough there what I'm... So a jackhammer and a couple of guys working could knock that thing out and get some people in there.
Marvin will get out there tomorrow.
I'll be with you.
Norman, I had experience of taking someone to the emergency room, and I experienced that myself, exactly what you're talking about. For years, you've been able to turn off Avenue J and go into the emergency room, and they've moved the entrance, and it's no longer accessible, and it's no longer accessible to the emergency vehicles that way, too. So I would be 100% in favor of removing that barrier.
Well,
thank you. There is a little bit of leeway there in as much.
Why don't we just have traffic go over there and figure out the best way to resolve the issue? And it probably is removing the median, but if there's, I mean, we got really, really smart traffic engineers that let's see what they come up with, okay? And unfortunately, oftentimes, other agencies don't. One hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing, but we can fix that.
I could add that Mr. Knox is very, very cooperative, and when I advised him of that situation, it appears that the emergency vehicles do have entrance through the service, through that gate. They can open it. And I pleaded with him that he leave that gate open so if somebody made the mistake and went in there, they wouldn't have to go out the street, down, turn right, make 2 U-turns to get in the ER. So that gate is partially open if people do make the mistake and go into that service entrance.
Sure. Understand, a traffic study takes a little bit of time, but let's get the right let's get the right answer and then proceed. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fran, you ready? Good.
Let's see. Where do I get started here? Well, first of all, I went to, with the senior center, we went to the La Brea Tar Pits last week, and on TV I had seen what they want to do with the buses for the drivers. They want to put up a door, which is a half door, half plastic and half metal. But in seeing this, I'm a plastic fabricator for 30 years. So I only saw a quick picture of this. The way it's conformed, it's not going to do the trick. It's not going to help or protect the driver, because the perpetrator can go right over and hit him on the head with whatever he wants. Plus, if it's Lexan, it can be bulletproof to a certain point, which is polycarbonate, or if it's plexiglass, you hit it with where they drill the holes. If you hit it just right, you'll crack the plexiglass real easy, no matter if it's half inch or up to 5/8. I also, at that meeting, when I went to that trip, they were having, MTA was having some kind of a news press meeting. So I went and I stuck my nose in there, not because of this either. But I spoke to a gentleman named Mark Littman. He's a deputy executive officer in public relations. And I explained what I'm trying to explain to you now, that the situation that they're trying to do is not really applicable. Plus, they're spending a lot of money, as it is already, they spend a lot of money in fabricating this, that it's not going to work. And he agreed with me. He said it is in the trying stage right now. The reason I'm bringing this up is because of our bus systems here that we're putting together. And so I am in contact with him, and he is going to bring it up to L.A. County Metro people. My next thing, real quick, Parks and Recreations. They're building on the Heritage Building. You had lights in the back where you have like a amphitheater. The lights were on, oh darn. And at night, and I was working really great keeping the homeless out of there. But now I had called, and I spoke to an Alexis on the 9th to tell about that. Anyway, to put them back on, because keeping all these derelicts out of that area, because they've been off. And also the water fountain's off. Real quick, I want to ask our city to hopefully help our supervisors. We're working, as you know, with trying to get the senior center built, or being built or rebuilt or expanded somehow, because we do need the room, but we have a little problem. Well, not me, potentially, but the supervisors are having trouble with the grassy areas. which is owned by the Community Development Commission. And what I'm trying to ask you for your help to see what you can use your expertise and all your know-how to help us acquire that property so we can expand the senior center a lot easier and hopefully spend less money. I got also real quick, on the water situation we just spoke about, I just jotted this down. They're decreasing. How about giving the people that do show initiative and decreasing the use of water by giving them some kind of an incentive of a credit payback?
The problem we have, Fran, is we don't have the water company. That's the county. And so we're really limited in what we can do. It's the Board of Supervisors that do that.
Oh, okay.
About the only way we can deal with the issue is through zoning. And I guess we could do ordinances, but I don't want to make it a criminal problem. But it may come to that. I don't know. Okay.
So I think
Thank you.
I'm done. And
Thank you.
Thank you again very much. Always a pleasure to come.
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you.
George Beatty? Hi.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Councils, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of touch bases on the function, more or less. Am I correct in assuming that the twice-a-month meetings here is a joint effort of all our offices, and we can classify as a unit for the city of Lancaster to strive and continue striving to better the community? Am I correct in assuming that this meeting's right here?
I've been a lawyer a long time, and that sounds like a lawyer question.
Well, can one of you explain why, when I contacted one of these offices, the traffic engineering department, speaking on the subject of J9, from Beach Street through Heaton Street, approximately half a mile long, 2 elementary schools in this area. There's no speed bumps, no stop signs. Cars have been clocked at 40 to 50 miles an hour by residents. Even a UPS truck was clocked at 40 mile an hour plus. My daughter moved off of that street, and there was 6 individuals with me that witnessed the UPS truck and were very good at estimating traffic speed, or the speed of a vehicle. And I asked the person that responded, why can't we have the sheriff department periodically set up speed checks on this street to justify a bump or a stop sign? His response was he had no idea what the sheriff department does. In other words, I assumed he doesn't communicate with them. Aren't we supposed to be communicating for the better of the city of Lancaster? He also went to tell me that he checks numbers and statistics of other cities and the nation to devise his checkpoints of setting up what to do on our streets here in Lancaster. Well, I'm not interested in the city, other cities, or the nation. I'm interested in Lancaster only. Okay? Could a speed bump on J12 several weeks ago impair that vehicle driven by the drunk driver that went through 2 walls to kill a lady asleep in her house? Could a speed bump impair his direction or power or whatever?
Just dealing with the speed bump issue, they have a whole host of problems that come with that.
Well,
let me finish.
Okay.
They don't always make it safer. Oftentimes, they can make an area more dangerous because of the physics of the speed bump. A stop sign is something different, but again, that requires a traffic study.
Let
me finish.
Okay.
But as to people speeding around schools, let's get the sheriff's department out there. And
that's my assumption. The traffic engineering should have been requesting that. But all he had to do was go to the city of Linwood, Burbank,
remember what I said, we don't measure ourselves against.
All these cities are in California, and they have beautiful speed bumps. They're not a impairment for anybody. They're not the radical speed bump. They are the blended in.
I know what you mean.
All I'm interested in is slowing down the traffic around these schools.
I agree.
Okay. And code enforcement. I also reported the address on J9. This concerns with water issue. Address 638, 632, 614, 617, and 601 have excessive bushes in excess of 8 foot from the forward corner of the structure all the way out to the sidewalk, which hampers the vision. Now, if I have a deputy searching for a suspect, it makes it very dangerous for him to even try to look for somebody in this area. And why isn't the city code enforcement going out to these addresses and having them chop those tightly compressed bushes down to the 3.5, 4 foot level that they're supposed to be?
You know, despite what people say, we really don't get to just tell people what to do. There has to be ordinances
That's
in
the
place.
ordinance.
And let's just have code enforcement take a look at it. Could we, Mark? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Kurt Boyer?
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't had a chance to talk with you folks in a while. As you may recall, I'm on the board of directors of Bart's Altadena Community Health Center. And I heard some interesting things today, talking about the alcohol sales and the degenerates, as was mentioned. And it's our goal to help these people. I keep bringing this up, but I must say, Mr. Bozigian and Ms. Burns, with your recognition of our clinic, in just the last month, our business has increased by 20% as far as the people that are coming in to deal with us. And they are primarily homeless, mentally ill, addicted, and alcoholic, without insurance. And we guarantee insurance. Now, what we're going to be doing in the near future, tentatively right now, it's set for May 2nd. We're working with the county library. We're going to be having a health fair there. We're bringing in people like Grace, like Mental Health America. The Senior Center is going to be represented. A lot of different people will be represented. People doing nothing but, well, let's say child abuse or homeless families, women without shelter. We know what the shelter issues are. You have been discussing it. You know, we're talking about getting them out into the old high desert facility. That would be the men, and right now Yucca is taking in the women with the children. The problem isn't necessarily the sale of alcohol, it's the alcoholic. The problem isn't necessarily the panhandler, it's the fact that they have nowhere to go for certain things. We're going to try to set up this fair, and we're going to try to make it a regular thing. Senior Center is going to be represented there. So we're bringing in a lot of players, and we're bringing in a lot of people. And we'd like to know, is there a way that we might be able to get some kind of city participation in this event, minor as it may be? We're going to be advertising on the radio. We currently now are putting out commercials. There will be commercials dedicated to just this event. I believe we're going to get some television play from the local station. We're not certain on that yet, but we're looking for as much assistance as we can possibly get. And I thought that based on the assistance that we did receive from the city, perhaps there's a way we can communicate. You could send me into the right direction as to who we talk with at the city, just to keep them informed, perhaps get information. Perhaps we could even get flyers available at City Hall for the people that come in and are going through these things. I am thoroughly open to suggestion.
Thank you. Brian Sims. Brian.
Hello, everybody. I would like to say greetings for the first time. I'm,
software media developer as well as a business titan looking to, first introduce my first project. I'm from Palmdale, California originally, but I've just moved down to Lancaster. And so I've got, a prompt right here that I'll be reading. And, basically, I'm not here to provide any information on my iMouse tablet device that will be coming out in 2018 on behalf of Apple.com with desktop capabilities currently and updated features. Nor will I explain any details on our next generation operation.
Slow down. I really want to listen to what you have to say, and if you could slow down, I could hear it better.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
On our operating system, our inverse of iOS, Facebook, is an online and offline mechanic, and, we social media, web domain illustrators, and entrepreneurs of Next Sweatshirt, are currently debunking our iOS Twitter, which is an online-only operating system, featured on our iMouse tablet device that will be coming out in 2018. Advice to our inputs, we cherish at this time to propose a crisis that will be left in legislature beyond the decline and incline of our stock index regarding corporations of Twitter, Torque, which is our new network browser, coming online to consumers near you, and lastly our Tour.com, which is our search engine, which is looking to come out by 2016. We're a subsidiary looking to be overrun by a social media mega giant corporation, Twitter Inc., due to their software, expositions that we'll be using in our server-based analogy of our fight of, what Google Chrome will be having a Torque venue, and as they have a Google search, we'll be using our Tour.com. So we're doing this on behalf of Twitter.com, and we're showing our incorporation. And to garnish our intellectual property for all ideas platform and beta, we're trying to furnish our project sales to debut, on the World Wide Web server that will launch here in Lancaster.com. And it'll be, nationwide as well as global entity released throughout the whole worldwide national server. And so I'm stationing in Lancaster trying to see if I can grab, more information with the board of directors and trying to see if I can get, a little help from, our city council to maybe furnish me to get to the, the right places at the right time and see if I can grab, some of these boards of directors to maybe come out here to Lancaster, or maybe if I can maybe get to them on the phone line and see if I can maybe get more information to, proceed on what I'm doing for the next generation on behalf of myself and others. Once again, with my spectrum policy, I would like to discuss my financial bargaining coordinators. And before my trademark and patent liaisons start to become apparent, I would like to, be involved in Lancaster, California, as we reach closer and closer to net zero. I consider Lancaster not to stop their outlook in just energy sectors, but to consider Next Sweatshirt, myself, and other venture capitalists to consume in our next generational era as we platform social media through our technology sector revolving. And I believe we can delay no longer. Thank you. And we are accepting checks and money orders after the council meeting advisory. Thank you, Antelope Valley of California, Sweet Home, Alabama. Once again, I am homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. I introduced Jeff Little. Remember? I elevated him. I made him a vice chairman.
Oh, yeah, you did. Did you miss Mark Wiegans?
Did I miss Mark? Oh, I did. You got anything to tell us tonight?
It's been a month. I actually do.
Okay.
I usually take this time to talk about the events that are upcoming and such, and we do have the Poppy Festival this weekend. We do have the Jedhawk season starting. But I also wanted to bring 3 items to the council's attention, which you already know, but the council and public, that I think are important and probably going to take some of your time in the near future. Mayor Paris talked about the first one, which is water. He had asked us to explore some of the things that have been doing and what's possible. We have provided you as a council with that information. I think to summarize, the direction of Planning Commission is very good as it relates to new development. The best way to get reductions in water with current users are to get rid of landscaping. Essentially, that's it. We have a water wasting ordinance, but it's extraordinarily difficult to use to enforce.
Whoa. We want to change our landscaping, not get rid of it.
Change our landscaping.
Okay.
Thank you. Going and ticketing people and code enforcement works, especially against egregious users, but it doesn't get the big push of replacing. The governor is going to replace or put funding in place to get rid of or to change 50 million square feet in California, and we're going to be all over that to try to get the money. But we're going to need the advocacy of the council as it comes to the water district, as Mayor Paris mentioned, because their programs for landscape replacement are deficient in amount, in public education, and in the process. And there's a lot of other agencies around the state that make it very, very easy to change to xeriscape. So we're going to be coming back to you next meeting with some recommendations on that. The second thing, which was covered in an editorial today, and I thank the mayor for arranging this, was a tour by a Chinese delegation from one of the most prestigious private schools in China, in Beijing. What struck Vern and I, who were able to go on the tour with the high school district and the mayor, was how well our high school district showed. The board, led by Denita Wynn and David Veer and his staff, gave a tour of 3 schools, and they really are revolutionary, world-changing programs that our high school district is showing. It truly impressed the visitors, and I think there absolutely will be an exchange program based on that. And I just really want to thank the high school district for doing an amazing job and showing very well the Antelope Valley. And Mayor, thank you for arranging that tour.
Welcome.
Lastly, we heard some issues with the healthcare district, but one thing they've recently done, which I think the council ought to consider getting behind, is they have filed a suit against Los Angeles County on the use of Measure B funds. Measure B funds were passed in 2002 to prop up and help the trauma center. Some of the statistics that they've shown are that the healthcare district here is responsible for 5% of the county's population, treats 12.5% of all of the emergency room visits in the entire county, and gets less than 0.5% of the money from Measure B that's been out there for 15 years. In fact, the county hospitals get more alone than all the rest of the trauma centers in LA County emergency rooms combined. I think it's kudos to Dennis Knox and Jack Burke and the hospital district for putting the county on notice, and then when the county didn't respond, they've actually filed a lawsuit, their board. So I think it's something that we should ask the hospital board to come and report to the council on. I think it's very important for our city and the Antelope Valley.
We should probably ask them what we can do to help.
Yeah.
Maybe succession from the county.
But those are some of the weightier issues that I think the council will be dealing with over the next couple of months. Thank you.
You know, if the sheriff's department joined us in this succession, we would have the, never mind. Thank you, Mark. Okay. You know, I make jokes about it simply because it's so depressing, just how underserved we are and what that means. What it means is we have people in this community dying because we do not have the ability to take care of their medical needs because of just this basic unfairness. It's really, and I mean dying. I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's deplorable. It's almost criminal. Okay, the City Council will now move to closed session to discuss closed session items 1 through 2.
We are not going into closed session tonight.
Oh, God is good. Yeah. And Angela, if you would be so kind as to open the Poppy Festival this weekend, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely, be my pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, let's go home. Oh, I got to close it, don't I?
Yes, announce the adjournment, please.
Okay. The City Council meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, April 28th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you again.